Welcome to Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, and dedicated to silencing the chatter about what women should and shouldn't be doing as they age. Here to bring you stories about women in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, women who are leading inspiring lives that make a difference to themselves and others, are Catherine Marino and Gail Zalitsky.
Hello, I'm Catherine.
And hello, I'm Gail. And we are the active voice of Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined. Today is our 60th episode. And we said to each other, let's get real.
And in preparation for our conversation today, we said, what's getting your attention? And three big themes came out of that conversation. One has to do with disruption, the other with time, and the third has to do with connections.
Yes, so Catherine, what's your reality around disruption? What are you thinking about?
Well, I've been thinking about it a little differently in the last couple of weeks as the pandemic is present and seems to be worsening in many areas and will probably be with us for a good time into the future. A colleague reminded me that I retired from my full-time faculty position 1 year and 9 days ago. And the life I was enjoying up until March or April was really a nice balance of working on projects that interest me and having more spontaneous time to spend with my daughter and reach out to friends. And it's an incredible notion that we could take a little trip in the middle of the week. We didn't have to wait for weekends. So that whole rhythm has changed as I've been home. And I've been thinking about, my own bubble here. I live in my house, my yard, my dogs, as more as a disturbance. It's disturbing my rhythm. When I listen to the news and I think about how every life, every industry, every aspect of our society is being touched in some pretty harsh ways by this pandemic, then this notion of disruption looms large and almost incomprehensible to me to get my arms around it. And so I'm trying to I don't think balance is the right word. I'm trying to manage somehow, keeping my life interesting, keep my sanity, and still be, a citizen of the world and concerned about everything that's going on.
I feel very much the same way. It's life has really changed, and all of everything that I'm used to doing. The whole reason I moved downtown was so I could take advantage of everything that's here. The museums, the culture, the beaches, the lakeside, the lakeshore, all of it are things that I can't do anymore because I'm self-quarantining. And the other thing about disrupting that is bothersome to me is the fact that I have been lumped into a category that says because of my age, I am vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm in that age group also. And do you feel vulnerable? Is that a helpful category?
It is not a helpful category, and it makes me think about the things that I don't want to think about, which are those aspects of my health that I try not to let interfere with how vital I feel and the things that I do. But they're a reality. We're getting real here. They're a reality. I do have some health issues that definitely I have to be thinking about.
Right. You won't even let me come to visit. So right?
That's right. I have not had anybody in my house since March 15th. And my children were going to drive in from San Diego for a visit, and they wanted me to have my grandchildren stay with me for a week, and I had to say no. I've never said no to that ever since any of them were born, because It's just one of my joys of life.
Of course.
So is this a form of ageism that's happening? I love Margret Morganroth Gullette's book, The Ending Ageism, or How Not to Shoot Old People. And, she just talks about aging is the process that serves as the trigger for ageism.
Right. And I'm not sure that in the context of the pandemic, saying that our age group and older are part of a vulnerable population, I'm not sure I perceive that as ageism. It's more, I think, an attempt to be protective. Now, there are lots of other forms of our system that protects us because we're older and aging that I'm not so fond of. But I don't know about one thing I like is that I can go to the grocery store at a certain time and it's just us old people, right? So it just seems to be less crowded.
Right. We're being separated out.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's what bothers me. It may not be ageism in particular, but we are being separated out as an older population that needs specific handling.
And that bothers you? It bothers you?
Me. It does. It may be nice, but it still bothers me. And I think it disrupts my life because I'm not comfortable going into grocery stores. I'm not comfortable going to sit and have dinner where there are lots of people. I'm not comfortable going and being inside where there may be people that more people than should be there. And I'm also uncomfortable because why am I the one wearing a mask when I go out and not everybody's doing it? So I think it's life is disrupted.
I would agree. I think life is greatly disrupted. I just not sure I would connect that with ageism.
Okay.
you
don't have to.
I know. I think what you did bring up in that also was step outside of the pandemic and aging is that there's certainly ageism associated with getting older, being older.
Of course.
And so so you mentioned the book Don't Shoot Us Old People. I have that book too, but I don't have it in front of me. What is that again?
It's Ending Ageism, or How Not to Shoot Old People.
Right, Don't Shoot Old People.
Margret Morganroth Gullette. Yes.
So what is it about, does she talk about, or do you think of aging as a disruption, as a disruptive change?
It's an interesting question. Aging itself causes people, often, not everybody, but causes people to look at you differently. And that is a disruption in the way that you live your life.
Yep.
If workers are laid off because they reach a certain age, whether or not they can work any different than they ever did. Those are the kinds of disruptions that we're facing. And but this particular time during the pandemic, life is being disrupted, and it's not always a negative thing, however.
Right.
And that's some of the other things we talked about.
Right. How I spend my time may have come about because of having the advantage of retiring from my full-time job. Mm-hmm. I certainly have hunkered down and taken on more writing projects and joined more groups and said yes to a number of things that I might not have before. And part of that is, I think, to feel like I'm really still an engaged person, and so that I don't spend my mental time fixated on things I can't control.
Mm-hmm. Right. And is it a matter Well, I'm sure part of it is being engaged, but is it not also a matter of wanting to continue to feel worthwhile?
Absolutely. Yes, that I have something to say. I have something to contribute. I have experience, skills.
You sure
You know,
do. Yes, you do.
in one of the groups I was in, we were talking about how are you different, as you age? In what ways are you different? And I was just saying, I'm exercising my voice in a different way. I'm trying to get louder and more forceful and behind my convictions. And I've always kind of taken the more quieter route to things. So I love our tagline. We're the active voice of women aging.
Yes.
It gives me permission to, as we said at the beginning of this, get real.
Yes, right. And I think that's really an important thing that we're doing. It certainly is one of the reasons why we love doing this podcast together, because we can speak up about all of this.
Right.
And we can share with our listeners all of the guests who are so fantastic.
They are fantastic. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the theme of time.
Sure.
You mentioned missing out of being with your grandchildren and your, other members of your family, and I certainly feel that too. But what is it about time? How do you think about time at this stage in your life, this moment in your life?
Well, I think that's the other part about the disruption, is that I'm on some level angry, because I'm feeling at my age, I don't have a year to give up to this virus.
It's going to be more than a year.
It's going to be more than a year. It is. And so, I mean, in terms of time, it's certainly hard to be sensible when people, those close to us, are tugging at our heartstrings. Right. And not being able to see them, when you're 40 or 50, or even for me, when I was 60 or 65, I thought, well, I've got another 30, 40 years to live. So a year doesn't mean so much.
Right. That I've gone back to reading Bernice Newgarten's work. She's a sociologist. Well, she's since passed, but she was like one of the first people to really bring gerontology as a field. And she was a very active voice for aging. And she's the one who said, at a certain point, kind of midlife, maybe as we get into our 50s, early 60s, we begin to realize that the question is not just, I have all this time left. I have plenty of time to do these things and be this. And now we're saying, well, how much time do I have left? And how am I going to care for myself? How am I going to be the person I was always meant to be? Whatever motto you want to follow.
That means for you,
because there's only so much time left.
Yeah.
And as you say, a year or two, whatever kind of extended disruption this pandemic is bringing about, we're losing out on some really important aspects of what we expected our life would be like at this point.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I never, up until I turned 70, even thought about how much time do I have left.
And I thought about it earlier in the intellectual way, because I was teaching human development and adult development, and I had really close friends who were 10, 15 years older than myself, but it was an intellectual exercise.
I'd like to read a very short passage from Gullette's book. And she says, when people turning 35 hang black balloons, a festive party at 70 can seem unexpectedly subversive, delicious. We not only said nay to decline ideology, but gaily cocked a snoot outfacing both the age deniers and the age catastrophists. A truth practiced by a single person and experienced by others may have a delicately spreading influence. Personally, the event left me, turning 70, the event left me feeling launched onto the path of expectable work, soaring into the decade with aplomb. And I feel that that's what we're doing with women over 70. We're delicately spreading inspiration and influence.
That's
and
nice. That's great.
Yeah, really. And but so normally under non-catastrophic times like the crisis is, I wouldn't be thinking about this at all, my age.
And you are how old?
Catherine, you know very well I'm 8 years older than you are.
I think it's only 7, but
Yes, it's 7 at this point. You're right. Yeah.
You're 78 and I'm 71.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. That's right.
And I think, what we've heard from many of our guests who are on that cusp of their 70s have been pretty wonderful and full of travel and connection with family and friends and taking up new things like painting and tap dancing. And as they're moving into their 80s, it's starting to shift a bit. They're changing where they live. They're living closer to their adult children. They're dealing with health issues and recognizing and trying to figure out how to, as you said, health issues. Well, yes, that's part of what's going on, but that's not defining you.
Right, exactly. That's right. And being realistic about life as I age. I mean, you're involved in many groups, couple of groups that have to do with end of life, right? And
right.
Thinking about that and aging solo. I mean, I live alone. I have to be realistic and think about how I want my life to be as I move into my 80s and 90s.
Right.
But it's not stopping me from doing any of the things that I love to do.
Well, I would certainly hope not. Right. I think about my mother is 94 and a half, lives in an assisted living facility in Minnesota. I haven't seen her since December.
Yeah.
So that is my disruptive heartbreak, that I am not able to see her, be with her, play cards with her, the things that we love doing together. So I don't know when I'll be able to see her because they're still in quarantine. And so that's connected to time, because I think about her a lot in relation to time.
Sure.
Right? How much time does she have left? And how can I, stay connected with her and my siblings and all of that. But and I think about time left for me also. I'm a cancer survivor, and while I think of that as just a little blip on my life screen, there's a reality to that.
Of course, I'm a cancer survivor too.
Right. Yeah. So it happens. You take care of it. You don't have it now. You move on. Right. So.
Right. Yes.
But I wanted to just pick up on something that you said earlier about ageism.
Yes.
And being grouped, whether it's to protect us from this virus or whether it's putting us in a group that has all sorts of other implications and consequences. And I was just thinking about the book that you were referring to is all about ageism. And Martha Holstein, who's she is an advocate. Her episode will be released in a little bit. Just says we have to acknowledge that acknowledge our age, that we are aging, and we have, in order to be actively fighting or against ageism. Because if we don't acknowledge our age and who we are and how we are, then, so I guess basically what she was saying is that we need to set our own criteria.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be universal, but we need our own criteria for what it means to age vibrantly, vitally, in the ways that we want to, without trying to meet the standard of youth. So don't tell me that I look good for my age. What does that mean?
Right. What does that mean? It's one of the reasons I'm letting my hair grow natural.
Oh, I thought I inspired you.
Oh, you did. Absolutely. And as you can see, and I'm letting it grow out because I want to be recognized not anymore as someone who is trying to stay young, but rather as someone who is active and impactful because of her age.
Yeah.
And so we'll see if that works out.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know how it's working for me, but we'll see. It's when I visit my mother in her assisted living facility, and we're sitting in the cafeteria, and people look at me with my hair, which matches theirs, and they say, "Oh, are you coming to live with us now?"
Of course.
Don't wait up for me. No, not yet.
Yes. Well, but behind that hair is a vital, vibrant woman, and you show that in so many ways that the color of your hair makes no difference at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And so let's talk a little bit about connections and self-care and how are we so life is disrupted, we know it. Time is passing us very quickly, we know that. How are we staying connected, and what does that mean to us in this time of getting real?
Well, I think I'm coming at that from several different ways. One is being involved in projects like our podcast, Women Over 70, is a wonderful way to be connected with you and with these incredible, fascinating women that we have as our guests. We interviewed a woman today, and I said to you, I love her. I am so inspired and so energized by this 92-year-old woman.
Right.
And that happens if we're talking with somebody who's 70 or 85. So that's a way for me to stay.
Or 103.
And 103.
Yes.
It's partly that sense of, well, I do have a bunch of time left. I really do. If I aspire to be 103.
Of course.
But I've also been connecting with friends and family through this medium of Zoom, more phone calls, just more reaching out to touch people. And I've found myself going back to friends from second grade and high school, and just that warmth of connecting with people that you've known for such a long time. So I have more space to do that.
And I think you just said a very important word, and that is the warmth of connecting with people from way back, or just connecting, because during this time, I think it's just so crucial that we stay connected, and that we do recognize the beautiful relationships that we have each been lucky to have throughout our lives.
Definitely.
I was looking at some of the groups that I'm involved with on Zoom, and aside from work and those kinds of meetings, aside from groups I belong to and those kinds of meetings, I have 6 different Zoom sessions with 6 different groups of friends.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Why it's hard to get on your calendar because you're
too many friends. No, never enough friends. Never enough dear friends. These are dear friends that go back 30, 40, 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
And you have groups of friends. I have a few groups of friends like that who go back 50 plus years
Mm-hmm.
that we do get together on Zoom. And I have two friends who think they're coming to visit me the end of this month, and we'll see if that works out.
Yeah, right.
I hope so. But so you and I are both involved with the Transition Network,
Yes.
the organization for women over 50.
Right.
And what I hear, I'm involved in several different groups there, and I hear one of the reasons that women join the Transition Network is to make friends.
Yes. Right.
Because their friends have moved, or they've died, or they're recently divorced, and they want a whole another network. They've moved here, and then the pandemic hit, so they're in a new place, no job. So I think the Transition Network is proving to be a very important connector for women.
Yes, and they connect women from 50 and over. I'm
Yes.
sure younger women can join, but they do start at 50, and
right.
so that's really a good thing. Maybe that you just said something else that made me think that maybe the reason that I am not at all interested, as our guest said today, in moving into a retirement facility is because I am blessed with so many friends, wonderful friends, who sustain me and support me and are there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's you got to look at your friends, folks.
Right. One of my really close friends from college years, we talk about there's going to be a time when we need to buy townhouses or we're next to each other.
Yes.
Or even a place where we might share a kitchen, but we still have our separate space.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what to do about her husband yet, but we're talking about that.
Well, Margret talks about in her book talks a lot about shooting old people, both from the point of view of a camera and how not to shoot an old person so that they look better, but also from the standpoint of there are too many documented husbands and wives who are literally shooting each other in their old age.
Wow.
As a loving act of euthanasia, or simply because as a caregiver, they can't take it anymore. Yeah. So
that's interesting. I didn't get that far in her book, but
yeah,
it connects with this organization that I'm involved with, Compassion and Choices and End of Life Options.
Yes.
How important I believe it is for people to be as planful as possible about how you want to live while you're dying. And I've had a good number of friends who had major illnesses at a young age, and I learned a lot from them about how to live while dying and the emphasis on living. And so although it's called End of Life, I think of it more as how do we live as well as we can to the very end.
Yes.
Well, on that note.
Yeah. Talking about connections, there's also, we're both involved in collaborations. And so it's one thing to be connected to people because either through the ages you have through the years you have remained in contact with these people, and you have family and friends, and you stay connected to them. And but collaborations are different, and collaborations are continuing to find ways to share your wisdom, share your resources, share, like you just said, you've been informed by people that were close to you who went through difficult times and how they managed their end of life years living, and how they wanted to live. And so, I think about some of the mentoring that I do.
Yeah. So I know that you are involved in, what is it, Ageless Innovators?
Ageless Innovators, yes. It's an organization that was founded by Chicago Innovation. And Ageless Innovators is an attempt to bring together the wisdom of older people and the knowledge of younger people. And so we co-mentor each other, someone from one generation, someone from a few generations beyond.
Can you give an example? Someone that you're in that relationship with?
I sure can. I have been enjoying so much this third cohort of mentors with a young woman named Erin, who works for an organization that handles immigration for companies here bringing workers in from out of the country.
Oh.
Very interesting organization. And she happens to be a social media expert. She does marketing and social media. And she has been helping me with social media that has been just fabulous for me and my business. And I'm very grateful to her. And what am I doing for her?
Yeah, what are you doing for her?
What I'm doing for her is I think what I'm doing for her is being an inspiration, someone she can run ideas past, someone that she can tell all and get input that is based on years.
Nice.
And life experience.
How long does this relationship typically last? Is there an end, or it just goes as long as the two of you wanted?
The program, Ageless Innovators, is a 6-month cohort. So our time is up, but we are going to continue meeting. We have refused to stop. So I'm very grateful that she feels that way. I certainly feel that way about her. And it's just a wonderful experience. I think that when you're talking about being alone, when you're talking about, as we are now, because we're kind of isolated, having these kinds of working relationships, these collaborations. I mean, you're working on a book.
I know, and the collaboration part is interesting because I've realized, even before I retired from my university work, that I need to collaborate. I just am not going to accomplish all that much on my own. And it's partly because I have a tendency to procrastinate. But I also I just love that, the rhythm of talking with someone else and exchanging ideas and figuring out what to do and trying it out, and as we do with the podcast.
That's what is so exciting to me, is our collaboration.
Yeah. And then I want to include Christine in this too. As you were talking about Erin, I'm thinking, well, Christine is a godsend as a collaborator with doing all of, not just the production of the podcast, but the perspective she brings as a younger woman and her expertise in social media.
Yes.
And I think she enjoys us. I think she finds us
interesting,
and she loves the guests that we have, and so she's become a really important collaborator.
Absolutely, yes. We are so grateful to her.
The collaboration certainly we have a wonderful collaboration. The book that I'm working on with Carolyn, we've been friends since college.
Mm-hmm.
We've never collaborated on anything professionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always been a straight friendship, and now we find ourselves working on a book where we can bring together her expertise in integrative health for women and mine, and adult learning and figuring out how to mesh that together.
Mhm.
So that's been really exciting.
Wow.
Added a whole new dimension to
Yes.
our relationship.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question that in some ways life feels easier, that there's not, what I have kind of enjoyed about this time is that I stopped running because I'm so interested in so many things. My curiosity never ends.
Yeah.
My love of culture never ends. And so I have to be out there doing all these things. Well, I can't do that now. And in some ways, I find it very liberating.
How so? How is it liberating?
It's causing me to stop and think and to evaluate. Are the things that I'm doing, all these things that kept me so busy, are they really all the things I want to be doing? And are they, do I need to do as many of them as I do? What we're finding here is that it's so easy to continue to watch movies, watch plays. Everything is streamed.
Yeah.
National Shakespeare Theater Company, lyric opera. There are many ways to stay engaged culturally, simply by being here. Now, I do have to add that one of the reasons that I like to do these things is because I love my friends.
Yeah.
And so I'm missing them terribly.
Yeah. That would be mine too. You have been far more active in cultural things than I was or have been. So I think for me the rhythm is. I was looking forward to again retiring within the last year of having a lot of time and space to think, to reflect, to try to gather myself around, well, what are my real interests or passions and priorities? And so I've been able to do that, and pandemic or not, I am doing that. I do miss the being out, the spontaneity, the getting together with friends, that part, and experiencing different parts of the city with friends, or being able to travel.
I miss travel terribly. Yes.
Yeah, that's a huge disruption right now.
I also miss our margaritas.
Oh my God! Well, may I just say that I did have some friends come to my deck, and they brought margaritas from my favorite restaurant.
Catherine, and I wasn't there.
Two big pictures.
I'm
going to do that again, but
nice. That's nice. Well, we certainly have. There certainly are a number of things that are catching our attention.
Definitely.
And we are, and so it's nice to be able to share them with our listeners.
And to it's helpful to take this moment to pause and say, well, what is getting our attention now, which may be different a month from now or 2 months from now.
Right.
This notion of connection, though, is never going to go away. So
no, it isn't, is it? It's right. So, well, I've enjoyed this conversation with you.
And with you too. Thank you.
I look forward to the next one. 15 episodes from now.
Oh, 15 episodes. Oh, well, a lot can happen between now and episode 75.
That's right. So until then.
And listeners, we want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts in our Facebook group at Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined. Become an active participant in our community and join us at our Zoom events. Access our weekly Wednesday podcasts. And if you know a vital woman over 70 who would be a great guest, please recommend her to us at womenover70.com. We'll see you next Wednesday on Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined.
Thank you for listening to Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined. If you like what you've heard today, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. In what ways are you shattering the myths that women over 70 are no longer relevant or visible? How are you celebrating aging? Join with us. Make your voice heard. Find us at womenover70.com.